Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about chapters 10 and 11 just to make sure that you have some information about motivation and HR, the two primary focuses of these chapters. Basically, if you haven't read through the book, there's a couple of interesting motivational theories that are kind of fun to read. There's some good information in that about what makes people motivated to perform, which is really one of the goals within a business. Is you want to try to figure out how to get employees to maximize their potential and basically provide the highest level of outcome to your organization. So there's a couple of different kinds of rewards that are talked about in the chapter. Intrinsic reward, extrinsic reward. Basically, intrinsic is that it's the personal satisfaction. It's interior bound in terms of how you feel, pride in your performance and a sense of achievement, those types of rewards. So that basically comes out of the premise of getting good work that is rewarding. And then there's extrinsic rewards, which is external factors, something that's given in terms of reward or recognition for good work. Pay raises, promotions, awards, those types of things are considered extrinsic rewards. One of the primary motivators, and we find more and more people are motivated by some other types of fringe benefits. So the flexible work hours, having some kind of autonomy over what they can do with their schedule. Definitely vacation time and time off is important to many people in the workforce, just for even a balance of life. Possible upward mobility in the company. So promotions that come about pretty quickly. People don't want to wait 5 years to go to the next level. And then some other things too. Many people are motivated to work in companies or to go to organizations that provide some kind of group health care, and also to provide some kind of retirement funding. So with regards to some kind of 401k, matching kind of a situation to help people in what they consider deferred compensation for what's going to happen later on in their lives. There's an interesting segment in the book. Do you read about that? It's Taylor's Scientific Management. Basically, it's the study of work and how it is done with regards to time, methods, and rules of work. And then what happens is that after monitoring and watching employees do their job, people then craft a way to process and proceduralize that work and teach new workers how to do the work. So the four basic keys of Taylor's principles is to study how the job is performed, get the information for that, and then check out the different methods. So that's step one, and then codify it or standardize the best methods, and then do something that's kind of different, and which is try to match workers whose skill match the rules. They've shown time and time again, when you do that, when you create that match, you have better performing employees, and then work to establish a fair level of performance and pay. Not all jobs are equal, but sometimes they're just as important. So those are types of things that are there. There's a lot of conversations about work-life balance in terms of motivation, how to reduce stress, what stress does to the workers in the workplace. You get negative attitude, you have drops in productivity, there's lateness, there's missed work and that type of a thing. So trying to eliminate stress from workers' environment is very important. Hold on a second, I'm just trying. Maslow's theories of motivation, if you haven't heard that by now, this is a good opportunity to learn it. Basically, it's based upon the triangular formation of the hierarchy of needs, where you have to go through the different levels, and those levels need to be addressed in order to help somebody motivate to get to the next level. And the highest level is basically self-actualization. So it's when all of your basic survivalist type of food, shelter, protection, those types of things are all met, and then you kind of go up further into the triangle. So the levels are psychological needs, so it's freedom from fear, freedom from, feeling like you're safe, those types of things. The psychological needs have to be met first, then your needs of safety. So that would be having your dwelling, fresh water, those types of things are met. Then the next things are social needs. We all kind of need a tribe and some type of support systems that comes from either family, work, or friends. Once those are met, then you can get into esteem. So you can start to work on things that are maybe a little bit more status oriented. Things like the nicer house, the nicer car, the better title, those types of things. Some things that some people, this is very important to, some not so much. And self-actualization, which is basically gives you the opportunity to start to really find out what you're about and basically start to position yourself to give back to society. So we have Herzberg theory. So Herzberg talks about job contentment and motivators, and he finds that content workers are the most important because they deliver the most in terms of contributions to the organization, and that job factors sometimes do not motivate employees. So if you have what he calls hygiene factors, so these are factors that cause dissatisfaction if they're missing, but do not necessarily motivate employees if increased. Okay, so let's just talk about something, having bathroom facilities that are adequate, clean, and have supplies. If that's missing, there's a challenge and a problem. But people do not need a high-end marble, fancy schmancy, restroom. People do not need necessarily free coffee, but having a place where they can warm up their lunch or whatever the case may be might be a motivation and a productivity issue. However, it's not there, then you start to have issues with people performance. They hear about their friends having free coffee, free soda, ping pong tables, that kind of a thing. They go, oh, maybe I don't work in such a great place. So that's an interesting concept to find out your motivators and your hygiene factors in Herzberg's theory. It's actually a very basic theory that tells a lot. There's comparative in the book that compares Maslow's theories of hierarchy of needs and Herzberg's. There's some definite correlations between them. So take a look at that. Then the last thing I wanted to talk about was some information about, theory X and theory Y, McGregor. So McGregor people talk about this, sometimes you'll hear about it. And basically what it has to do is if you're a theory X manager or you're a theory Y manager. So theory X managers take the position that workers don't like work, they're going to seek to avoid it, and they have to be threatened with punishment to get them to perform. And they prefer the managers feel as though the employees feel to be directed and have to avoid responsibility. So their primary motivators there are fear and punishment. Okay. Then you have your theory Y managers, and the theory Y managers see things differently. So it's people like work; it's part of their life. They try to seek goals to which they're committed. They are committed to goals where there are rewards. People like to use creativity to solve problems, and that they're motivated by a variety of rewards. So you could take an opportunity and just look at your management where you work right now, and probably right now, based upon that little bit that I just told you about, be able to tell whether your manager is a theory Y or a theory X person, and how he perceives the people in his group and how he manages or she manages. Okay. There's one other theory that's talked about in the book, and it's theory Z. It's a little bit different. It was based in Japan. You can take a read at that. Basically what it does is it kind of combines a couple of things, but theory Y and theory Y and X and Y are talked about. In the book too, you'll find a comparisons chart that'll talk about theory Y, theory X, and theory Z, and lays that out quite well. There's a couple other things that are there. Goal setting theory That's the motivation that some people need to have, ambitious but attainable goals, to motivate by employee, motivate, excuse me, motivate employees towards performance. Goal setting theory is something that was talked about in the 80s, 90s, very popular. Management by objectives, where basically at the beginning of every, let's say, review cycle, you basically set out with your manager that you were going to accomplish these list of things. So those objectives were set, and then your performance for that particular time period is measured against how well you fulfilled those objectives. A lot of major companies do use that. Okay, there's one theory that I want to make sure that I talk about, and that is called equity theory. So equity theory is when employees attempt to maintain equity based upon what they see as performance and compared to other and similar positions. So let's say you're in a field and you're a top performer, and you see that you get paid the same rate as person B, who is a mediocre performer. So what happens in equity theory is that usually this affects workers who perceive that there's unfairness. So what they'll do is they will basically try to create a situation of equity. So you might wind up with a top performer starting to come in late or do a little less. And I'm holding this hand here because this is my mediocre performer. Or maybe just, take a day off now and again. And basically what they're doing is they're saying, I'm going to make equity in this situation, and I'm going to lower my performance because it doesn't seem to matter. So what they do is they start to basically act out in a way to create a situation where there's parity across the board. And this is a problem. This is why you have to have standards that you measure people against, so that this type of inequity is not perceived, and you don't have basically sliding performance of those who actually do a better job. Let me see what else I want to go over here. A couple of things that you can do in your workforce in terms of job enrichment, something that they call job enlargement, which basically is challenge folks to a little bit more, especially if you're top performers, and give them interesting assignments. Rotate your workers so that there's some variety in their skill sets, and it also helps to cross-train your individuals. Enrich flexibility, definitely. Make it so that, maybe you only have, core hours from 9 to 3 or 4, and all meetings have to take care, but at least you have some flexibility with your schedule. Sometimes people will trade off, money and career progress for flexibility. It's really, really important. Make sure that you create a culture where there's open communication, where people are open to suggestions. Listen, train people how to listen, become a listener. If you are in a management capacity, many times people are saying things, and you just have to listen and let people know that you're there and you can hear that. Social media, I would say, make that be a no-no in the workplace. A lot of folks don't realize the implications of posting things out on social media. Sometimes some companies are using it as a screening device, some people not. But just be cautious. It's becoming very, very more common. Probably one other thing that's extremely important is the recognition for good work. The recognition can come in a lot of ways. If you don't have money to pay your folks, sometimes a little bit of flexibility, a day or so for work from home is highly rewarded. some type of corporate event that can make a difference. Definitely things like, playing some games and having some engagement with your folks. One thing that you can also do is just make sure that their skill sets are kept up to speed. Encourage them to take some classes or whatever the case may be. You might lose a worker because they get advanced and they want to go someplace else if you don't have the opportunity. On the other hand, you could also wind up with somebody who becomes very loyal. Okay, let me see. That's just about it. There are cultural differences, so make sure that you recognize that, if you do hire a multicultural workforce, there are different things that motivate different workers from different countries, different religions, and those types of things. So it's very important to address those. And as we get more people from different countries and things like that, this matters. Another thing we talked about, so, part of the reason why I provide you with the millennial conversation was not just to get interesting viewpoints, but it's also to, to make you look at the situation that if you're in a management capacity or a business owner, you might have workers who are very young or very old. They all bring different things to the workforce. And there many times are very much motivated by different outcomes. You might think that somebody's motivated by money, and they're actually motivated by a little bit more free time. You might find that somebody is motivated by the exposure to technology, and somebody else was just like, I'm going to process some procedures and I can go that way. That's about it. I'm going to post this out there, and then I will do the next chapter, which will be chapter 11. Thanks.